Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Welcome to another episode of the live chat. We are back. That is right. So last week, we missed a week on the live chat. Various reasons for that. It was a crazy week. It was a wild week. A whole bunch going on between both my personal life and also all of the events going on in the world. A whole bunch of stuff added up to no live chat last week. So sorry about that, everyone. I know a bunch of people were pretty bummed. I had people hitting me up on Twitter. I had people sending me some DMs saying, hey, where's the live chat? We miss it. Well, the live chat is back. So it's good to see everyone. Thanks for everyone that is jumping into the stream. And I know it's a bit of a different time than we normally stream, right? I usually do it more during the afternoon, my time, which is good for Europe. And it also helps some people in the US. I know this is a little bit of a late stream for me. So to anyone from Europe, any of my friends over there, I am sorry for the time. I'm sure it is very late over there for many people. So totally understand if our turnout is not quite as big as it used to be, or as it normally is, I should say, with it being a completely different time. But I'm sure we're still going to get plenty of questions, plenty of comments, and a lot of stuff to discuss. So first, let's go over kind of the main topics as we always do right off of the bat, and then we'll start diving into your comments, diving into your questions, and take a look at what is going on. So first of all, the PlayStation 5 event, the last stream that we had done, it had been confirmed for June 4th, right? It was a really upbeat, really positive stream. We were all really excited because we were closing in on the PlayStation 5 reveal. And of course, that got delayed. That got pushed back due to, all of the protests that are happening right now. And Sony, very understandably, choosing to move that event so the focus could be on other things. I think most or all of us completely understand why that happened. Even if you're a little bit disappointed, I can understand being really excited and then being disappointed, with all of that hype getting it pushed back. But in the end, I think it was the right choice and a good choice. So that has now been rescheduled as of today. That is right. June 11th is our new date for the PlayStation 5 reveal event. That's going to be this coming Thursday. So I'm sure there's a whole bunch of questions about that we can talk about. Minecraft Dungeons seems to be performing very, very well, very, very strong in sales. We have a couple metrics right now that are really jumping out at me on Minecraft Dungeons. We can kind of go into that. It looks like it is doing very, very well for Microsoft. So we've got that we can go into. We have more additional info on The Last of Us pre-orders. It is setting records in Brazil. Last time we talked about how it's doing very well in Europe. Now we have another market that we're seeing record metrics in. So The Last of Us looking very, very strong for Sony. So yeah, those are kind of the topics we can talk about. As always with the live chat though, we will discuss anything that you want to. Anyone that's never been in here before, just drop your questions, drop your comments to the side, and we will get to them and we will discuss. Couple other really quick notes before we jump in. I am going to be doing a live reaction, a pre-show, and a post-show to the PlayStation 5 reveal on Thursday. Pre-show is going to start 30 minutes before the show. We'll do a live reaction here on the channel to the Sony event, and then afterwards there'll be a post-show. I know some people like to watch the conferences and things like this with no commentary over it, no reaction in real time. No problem if you decide to bounce out of the stream during that. But if you want to come in for the pre-show and do some discussion, stick around afterwards and talk about it. We will be here live on this channel on Thursday. So I think that was it. I thought there was one other note, but I can't remember off the top of my head. So you know what? We'll just start diving into the questions. And if it comes back to me, I thought there was one other thing I wanted to say off the top, but I just don't remember what it was. So let's start diving in and let's start discussing. Sean Torres saying, hi, Benji. Hope everything is okay. Everything's good for me. Everything is clear, okay, where I'm at, Sean. I know a lot of people are going through struggles right now, a whole bunch of, upheaval in the world. And for me, things have been pretty okay. But for a lot of other people, I know they're struggling right now. So thoughts are with everyone else. But for me, Sean, things are going well. Split End 89 moderating the chat as always, being awesome, saying, woohoo, we're back. Yes, it's good to be back. All right, here we go. Sean Torres. Have you seen anything on Xenoblade and Clubhouse Games? I know they're tracking pretty high on the eShop. Maybe you got an insight on retail. Yes, Sean. So we can go into that really quick. Xenoblade looks like it had a pretty good launch. If you look at its release in multiple markets, if you look at Japan, if you look at the UK, if you look at some of the stuff that I have seen and talked about in the US, it is looking like Xenoblade had a very good launch, at least. That first week is looking really good. For example, in Japan, it was the second best launch ever for the Xenoblade franchise. It was only behind Xenoblade Chronicles 2 physically, and it was only slightly behind Xenoblade Chronicles 2. It wasn't a big gap, but it was ahead of the original Wii release, the 3DS release, the expansion for Xenoblade Chronicles 2, Tora. It was ahead of all of those. So Japan was looking really, really good on physical. UK, it had a very good launch. It doubled the original release for the Wii physically. It was behind Xenoblade Chronicles 2 again, but I don't think that's super shocking considering, Xenoblade Chronicles 2 is a brand new game, whereas, Chronicles Definitive Edition is just kind of a remake. So I don't think it's shocking that the new game sold better. But and then in the US, I'm seeing something similar. It looked like it had a very nice first week. There is some things to question about how legs are going to be. In the UK, we saw an 87% drop for physical sales in its second week. That's significant. JRPGs are known to be front-loaded. That's a very common thing. Really, 70, 80% is not unheard of at all for the second week drop. But this was almost 90% in the UK. It was all the way up at 87%. So I wouldn't say that's the end of the world. Like I said, JRPGs are very front-loaded typically, and we also don't know if maybe shortages played into that. But I will say legs we need to keep an eye on, but at least launch week's looking good. In terms of Clubhouse Games, I think it's kind of an overperformer from what I'm seeing. I don't think this was a game that had a ton of hype leading into it. I definitely saw some discussion on places like Twitter and the like, but it wasn't one of those games that was like, getting huge headlines everywhere. Wow, Clubhouse Games. But from what I'm seeing, it looks like Clubhouse is going to do pretty darn well. So I think it's going to be a nice, modest success there. I'm not expecting anything crazy for Clubhouse, but a modest success. Split End 89. Should we expect a flurry of information from every game company in the coming weeks? Seems like the lost week, for a good reason, will lead to a rush on projects coming to light. Yes, Split End. I think that's right on the money. I think you're going to see a lot of craziness here in the next couple weeks. Like you said, we kind of lost a week there. We've lost a lot of time due to COVID, earlier in the year. Our marketing cycles are just getting so condensed. It's going to have to be basically essentially just nonstop news. It's just going to have to be news, basically for the next 5 to 6 months. Typically, yes, right now would be E3 week, so a lot of stuff doesn't get announced typically until right now, right? That first week to 2 weeks of June. But a lot of stuff does get announced before that, If you look at Call of Duty is usually announced before that. If you look at the previous console cycle, right? If you look at the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One had an event in May and PlayStation 4 had an event in February. So we are very behind schedule right now for many reasons, right? I think it's completely understandably. First, you had the entire COVID situation, which delayed things for months. Then you had, the social issues that are happening, around the world right now. It's pretty amazing. This was something that started in the US, but you're seeing really the entire world protest over this. You're seeing it in many, 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 many countries. So, yeah, game companies are going to have to start announcing fast and fierce, especially for those games that are going to be coming at launch, right? You're looking at a very, very, very short window. So, yeah, Split End, I would expect basically a nonstop barrage of news over the coming weeks and over the coming months. Killian Butler. Hey, Benji, we've seen Sony hype up this PS5 event with ads on ESPN and Twitch. What new announcement would you like to see? I'm hoping for the AAA house marquee game and that they finally show the box. Yes, Killian. So that ESPN ad really caught me off guard, right? So right now, Obviously, ad space is probably a little bit cheaper than typical, especially on a network like ESPN, which is lacking sports right now, right? If sports were everywhere, just nonstop being played like normal, ESPN would probably be charging a bit more of a premium on ad space. But right now, ESPN's not going to be pulling the kind of ratings they normally do. So probably Sony got a pretty good deal on that. That said, the fact they went out of their way to advertise on ESPN is pretty darn huge. That tells me that Sony is planning for this to be very big. This, I don't think, is going to be a low-key event at all. Typically people are like, hey, keep your expectations in check. Don't get too hyped, those kinds of things. I'm going to tell you the opposite. I think you should get very hyped. I think Sony have been quiet for a long time on their first party. We've known Ghost of Tsushima, and we know that The Last of Us Part 2, we've known about those games for years that they were coming, but we didn't have like tons of new first party announcements. So Sony's first party must be itching to go, right? I'm sure they've got a whole bunch to show. And then the fact that Sony's going out of their way to advertise, yes, on Twitch, on ESPN, they're running the ad on YouTube even, so it's all over the place. They really want a lot of eyeballs on this event. So Killian, I think it's going to be big. I think it's going to be very, very big. In terms of what new announcement I would like to see, personally, I think the thing I'm most hyped for is Guerrilla Games. I'm convinced that Guerrilla are going to be there, whether it's going to be showing Horizon Zero Dawn 2, whether it's going to be showing maybe a follow-up to Killzone, maybe some sort of new multiplayer Killzone game. I'm not entirely sure what it's going to be, but I'm really excited to see what Guerrilla is going to show. Guerrilla are just like such technicians, right? They're such technical masters. When you look at all of their games, the Killzone games look amazing. Horizon Zero Dawn looks amazing. I really am excited to see what Guerrilla is going to be able to achieve on the PlayStation 5. So that's the one I'm most excited for personally. And then do I think they're going to show the box? Yes, I think you will see the PlayStation 5 box there. I feel very confident. I would be shocked if it's not there, because kind of like what I talked about previously on the last stream, the PlayStation 5 is going to be entering hardcore production like right now. They're going to be making those consoles, getting them in boxes and preparing them to ship for November. You need months of lead in time for a console launch because you have to build that inventory up, right? They have to have millions of units ready for November and December. Like, they've got to be ready to go. And you can't just make millions of consoles in a month, right? You need a lead in time. So I think they are going to show the box, because basically if they don't show the box here, the box is going to leak. So I think Sony will want to show it on their own terms. So yes, Killian, I think you're going to see the actual PlayStation 5 console. Split End 89. Do you think it's just a guarantee we see the PS5 console design? Yeah, sorry. That's what we just went into. Split End. Yes, I would bet almost anything we'll see it. I'll be shocked. If the PlayStation 5 box isn't here, I will be truly shocked. Aceville saying good afternoon, good evening. Hello, good to see you. How are you? Like I said at the top, doing good, doing good. Hope everyone's doing good. Was feeling the stress last week. I think a lot of people were. It's just been, I kind of tweeted about this. The 2020 news cycle has just been so negative, and that's because there's negative things going on in the world, right? It's not one of those things where it's like the news is manufacturing negativity. It's just one of those things like, man, 2020 has been a rough year. So I was feeling it last week, was feeling the stress, but feeling a lot better this week. Killian Butler. Yeah, this is an interesting one. What on earth is going on with Lockhart and this Xboxing event? Jeff Grubb saying it's potentially moved to August. This cat and mouse thing between Sony and Microsoft is frustrating. Yeah, there's quite a bit we can dig into here. Let me grab a drink really quick. Give me just a second, because there's a lot to this. All right, let's break this down. Let's break down the series of events that happened today, because it was a lot of stuff happened. All right, so we've known that Jeff Grubb, who's been incredibly reliable this summer, has been right on spot on the money with his stuff. He was the very first one that reported that the PlayStation 5 reveal was originally going to be June 4th. He took a lot of heat over that, and he ended up being exactly right. So I'm trusting Jeff Grubb on what he's been saying, because I'll tell you what, he's been spot on. He was also spot on with some of the Nintendo Direct stuff that he was talking about as well. So, Jeff Grubb's on a heck of a roll. But there are multiple layers to this story. So let's go into it. he's had a calendar basically on Twitter that's been helping to describe, for people what exactly is going on in this whole mess right now. In fact, I think he calls it his summer games mess, because there's no E3. So things are just scattered. There's announcements all over the place. So he's been trying to compile a list so that everyone could kind of have a heads up exactly what's going on and when. And, one of the things that was on there was something he was calling Xboxing Day, which was going to be happening in June. Previously, Microsoft had said, that Xbox 2020 was an initiative they were doing this year where every single month there was going to be new news about the Xbox Series X, next gen, every single month. We saw last month in May their kind of third party, showcase of games. And then June was a bit of a mystery what they were going to show. So today, once Sony announced their date that they were going on June 11th, he also commented and said that, a whole bunch of shifting around. And one of the things was that the original June plan was going to be pushed to August. What was originally going to happen in June was now going to be in August. And he actually expanded a little bit on that with me on Twitter. And also he wrote an article over on VentureBeat you can check out where he talked about it. And essentially, basically what he said is it sounds like that was going to be the Lockhart reveal. And it was going to be on June 9th. Now, Aaron Greenberg has recently come out and kind of contradicted these claims, but not really, so let's go into that. There's a lot of people, I like Aaron. Aaron's great. I like Jeff. Jeff's great. I don't want to see people fighting. and I don't think they are fighting. I just think there's a bit of a disagreement about what's being talked about here. So Aaron's saying there's no delays. He said on Twitter, nothing's delayed. They're still going by, what's been announced. And then Jeff Grubb said, hey, yeah, you can't delay something that hasn't been announced because technically Microsoft never announced anything for June 9th. They never said they were going to show the Lockhart, on that date originally. And so if it's delayed internally, it's never quite true of a true delay because it was never announced. So there's a whole bunch in the air. What can we draw from this? I think it is true that probably Microsoft was going to show Lockhart in June. It makes sense to me. Jeff Grubb is super reliable with what he's saying. So I think he was spot on in that, at some point that was targeted for June. Microsoft might have changed their plans. Maybe now that is going to be in August. And then Aaron Greenberg would also be right in what he's saying in that it's not a delay because they never announced that to be happening in June. So both of them can be right about what they're saying. So what does this mean? Are we going to get something in June? Yes, we are going to get something. I don't think Microsoft's going to go back on their Xbox 2020. It would be very weird 1 month into this announced thing to all of a sudden be like, we're going to have new news every month. And then a month later, actually, no, we're not. So I do think you are going to get something in June. What that's going to be, who knows? Maybe they go into kind of services. Maybe they talk about the operating system. I'm just theorizing here. Could be anything. Maybe Lockhart has been pushed further back on when it's going to be announced. But I do think you see something in June, but probably not Lockhart. That probably has been moved. I'm going to go with Jeff on this one. So I would expect something. What that's going to be, I don't know. And then, yeah, the cat and mouse thing between Sony and Microsoft's frustrating. It is. They played their cards a lot more openly last gen. They really did. When you go back and look, Sony were flat out showing first-party games in February. Microsoft was showing third-party exclusive deals that they were signed in May, right? I'm pretty sure the May reveal might have had Sunset Overdrive, but maybe that was not until June at E3. I can't quite remember, but I know they did show some games at that May event. They talked a lot about the console, the Xbox there. This has been much more of Sony and Microsoft just afraid to show their hand, just flat out. And I know there's a lot going on with that, right? The world events are part of it, but I definitely get where you're coming from. A lot of people are frustrated because we want to see. We're close, right? We're 5 months away basically from launch. Everyone I feel like is ready to see, start showing, don't just tell. Let us see some games because there's a lot of stuff like, hey, these SSDs are great. You're seeing a lot of articles, a lot of devs saying, we love the SSD, we love this, we love that, but we're not seeing anything. The only thing we've seen that is like a chunk of gameplay of in-game stuff really just created only for next gen really is that Unreal Engine 5 tech demo. We need to see a lot more. We're getting close. So luckily, starting on June 11th, we're going to be there. So I think the frustration is going to come down quite a bit here pretty soon because we are going to get a lot. Aceville. With Japan Switch sales jumping up to super highs and before going down with stock, still good numbers, is the same happening in North America. Same with Ring Fit. So Aceville, what's going on in America is brutal shortages. Brutal shortages. I mean, absolutely brutal. And PlayStation 4 is facing the exact same thing. Basically, we're in a scenario right now that we're not facing shortages, I don't believe, because of production issues. We're hitting massive shortages on essentially all consoles. Xbox, PlayStation, and the Switch are all suffering very badly from shortages. And that is simply because March and April were so big, right? They were such utterly massive months that there's just not the inventory left. You can only make so many consoles so fast, right? Kind of like how I was talking about for the PlayStation 5 coming out at the end of the year, production's already going to be ramping up. No one was prepared for the sales volume that was coming. Nintendo wasn't prepared for March and April. Sony was not prepared, and neither was Xbox. No one was prepared for that surge. So right now what's happening in the US is basically all three consoles, when they're getting stock, from what I'm hearing from the people I talk to, from the things that I do to research this, inventory's coming in, inventory's going out, inventory's coming in, it's going out. So essentially what you're going to see in May and at least in early June, maybe things change, but at least in May and June, the numbers you're going to see in NPD are essentially going to be whatever is shipped for all three consoles, Switch, Xbox One, and PS4. Whatever they're able to ship into stores is what the NPD number is going to be. Essentially, seriously, it's crazy, but that's the situation we're in. Maybe that changes late June. I don't know. I have no idea what the future holds. But yeah, shortages are tough. But when there is stock, what I can tell you, Aceville, is when stock is there, the sales are great. So when Switch has the inventory to sell, it is burning through it. When PlayStation 4 has the inventory to sell, it's burning through it. The problem is just there's not a ton on shelves. All right. Bruby. Hey, Benji, it's late here in Austria. I'm so sorry. I know a lot of people that are normally in my streams. I'm so sorry. I know this is really late for Europe and Asia. So anyone that's, not over towards the US time zones, I know this is a tough one. I'm sorry. What are your expectations from the upcoming May NPD, hardware and software sales? So hardware, I'm expecting Switch to set a new record for the current gen, but I don't think it's going to be by a gigantic margin. So I do expect a new record for the current gen, but I'm not expecting what you saw in March and April, where not only did it break the current gen, it utterly shattered it. It was not even comparable. It was beating the record by hundreds and hundreds of thousands of units. I think it's going to break the record, but not the same way you saw in those months. So Switch number one, of course, new record holder. PlayStation 4 and Xbox, I think, might be kind of flat to last year, kind of stable year over year, maybe a bit below, maybe a bit above what they did last year, but I don't think you're going to see a huge range. You saw last month in the US, Xbox and PlayStation 4 sales surge, breaking their previous records for the generation. I think they're going to be more kind of flat or maybe slightly up or slightly down year over year, but kind of in that range. Software, let me think. What did we even have for new releases last month? I think Call of Duty and Grand Theft Auto are probably going to be number 1 and 2, or at least very, very high. It could be close. This month is really going to be kind of a lot of evergreens. There wasn't a lot of huge new launches. Animal Crossing, of course, is going to place well. And yeah, Call of Duty and Grand Theft Auto really dominating. Software sales this month won't be super exciting. I don't think so in May. Hopefully something surprises. But I think software might be actually kind of boring. Pokelin. Hey, Benji, any idea how The Last of Us Part 2 pre-orders have been since the state of play? Yes, they are rising. The game has slowly been going up on Amazon's bestsellers list for 2020. Pokelin, yes, what I can say about this is that pre-orders are looking really good. really good, even for the US now. That was one thing I was talking about a while back. I was talking about social metrics and how I thought The Last of Us Part Two's social metrics on like places like YouTube, weren't kind of blowing me away, for the last, let's say 3 to 4 weeks. It had been doing pretty good numbers, but not something that screamed, hey, I'm going to break the record. US pre-orders, Pokeland, are spiking. They are spiking, rising, going high. I'm still not sure if pre-orders are higher than Spider-Man overall. I'm still actually not sure about that in the US. That's something I'm going to keep my eye on, but I don't know. It could be, but I don't know. I don't know about that. I'm not super convinced, but it could be. But what I can say, Pokeland, is that they are spiking, especially right now. I feel like from some of the stuff I'm seeing, some of the controversy about the leaks and things like that, that's really dried up. It really has. Maybe on like some forums and stuff, I don't really know, but it could be still burning, raging hot. But what I can tell you, at least with consumers, people that pre-order, people that are actively engaged in games, in a purchasing manner, I'm not really seeing that. I'm really not seeing it come through. Maybe it's controversial online. Doesn't seem controversial with people that are going out and buying games. Some people saying hi, hello. Couch, what exclusives do you think are going to be revealed on Thursday? Like I said, Guerrilla Games. I'm very, very positive Guerrilla Games is going to be there. I'm very confident Blue Point is going to be there with an exclusive game. So Guerrilla and Blue Point for sure. And I do think you're going to see either Spider-Man or God of War sequel there. One of them. I'd be shocked if you see both. Sony could go crazy and show both, right? I mean, could you imagine a show where they show the sequel to Horizon, God of War, and Spidey? I mean, that would be insane. Of course, we all love new IPs, but you're talking about 3 juggernauts in sales. Could you imagine if they announced all 3 of those? But I'm not expecting that. But I do think either God of War or Spider-Man could get an announcement. Maybe not like a huge gameplay chunk, but a short teaser. So I think one of those might show up, and then Blue Point and Guerrilla. I think those are going to be kind of probably the main focus. As a guess, this is a guess. I don't have any inside info about what's going to be there, folks. I really don't. And I'm actually glad I don't. I'm really excited. I'm not sure what's going to be there because it makes things very, very exciting leading up to it. But that's kind of what I have my eye on. Guerrilla, Blue Point, and either God of War or Spidey. And I'm sure there will be a couple other things, but those are kind of the ones that I'm looking for. Tripix, PlayStation didn't leave much of a delay. Yeah, not bad, a week, right? Just a week. I think that's okay. They gave a week to really focus on, everything that's going on right now. To, the wording they said is to have more important voices be heard, and I think a nice week of basically silence. They didn't say anything for, really a week. I think that was the right move. But they can't delay indefinitely. Like I was saying earlier, we're getting close. Marketing cycles have to kick off, right? I mean, Call of Duty's got to start getting talked about. We're in June and we haven't even seen Call of Duty yet. Launch games have to start getting talked about. So they couldn't push this back really like super long. I thought it might be another week. I thought this might have been the same week as The Last of Us Part 2's release, but on like Tuesday, right? Not on top of The Last of Us at the end of the week. But yeah, it ends up just being a week delay. I think that's totally okay. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And I also think it's good for gamers because, hey, we don't have to wait near as long. JCat saying, glad I'm doing well. It's 1 a.m. here in the UK. I'm so sorry, my European friends. I'm so sorry. I feel really, really bad. Silence PP7. Do you think Sony will discuss more on PS4 backwards compatibility at the event? And should we expect anything beyond PS4 backwards compatibility for the entirety of the PS5's lifespan? Ooh, good question. I think they'll probably touch on it, but I don't think that's going to be a massive focus of the show. I think Sony's really going to want to show off next-gen games. That's kind of some of the stuff that's being reported, that they're heavily encouraging devs to show actual PS5 footage and not PC target footage. That's one of the things that's making the rounds right now, is that the third-party games that are going to be shown are running on PlayStation 5, that they are not games with target PC specs. which is exciting because it's going to be a real look at what we're getting. So I wouldn't be surprised, Silence PP7, if they touch on backwards compatibility, but I don't expect that to be like a huge chunk, right? This show is a little over an hour. I think it's mostly going to be focused on this is next gen. Keep in mind, we still are going to have events after this. We are in June. It's time to start talking, but we still do have multiple months left of marketing before launch. So, they could kind of save some of the deep dives on backwards compatibility, let's say for July or August. They do still have some time to talk about that. I think the most important thing right now is to talk about games and to talk about what you're going to get at launch, right? They need to tell people this is why you need a PS5 in November. I think you're going to get a couple announcements that are further out than launch as well. But I think that the big bulk of this show is probably going to be, hey, here's those games hitting in the first, let's say, 3 to 6 months. These are the games that are going to be here real early. You want a PS5. You want to play these games. I think that's going to be the main bulk of the show with maybe, a little bit more info sprinkled in. Killian Butler saying the live chat is worth staying up at 1 a.m. for. Oh, man. I'm sorry. Hey, we have Thursday, and Thursday I think is a better time for everyone. So Thursday, whenever we're doing the live reaction and the pre and post show, that's earlier in the day, so it won't be as tough for everybody. Gamer Stu saying hello. JCat shouting out, hit that like button, folks. I always appreciate it. If you like doing the live chats, the like button does help the channel get found, helps people discover this channel, and more people in the chat just means more discussion and better engagement. So if you do like these chats, I definitely appreciate the likes. Exit Slash. Hi, Benji. Do you think The Last of Us Part 2 will have a stronger opening weekend than Animal Crossing? Ooh, no. I don't think so. Exit Slash, I do not think it will be better than Animal Crossing. And there's a big reason for that. Japan. Japan makes it nearly impossible, to be honest. Makes it almost impossible. Theoretically, I guess it could do it, but here's what we know, right? That The Last of Us Part 2 is going to do gangbusters in the U.S. Guess what else did gangbusters in the U.S.? Animal Crossing. We know The Last of Us Part 2 is going to do amazing in Europe. Animal Crossing did amazing in Europe. Japan is going to be a huge gap. Even if The Last of Us Part 2 does really, really good for a PlayStation exclusive in Japan, it's still going to be nowhere close to what Animal Crossing did in Japan. We're talking like million unit difference. I just don't think it's possible with Japan. I just don't think so. In terms of could it be better, let's say, in Europe? I think so, actually. I think there are markets that The Last of Us Part 2 can open bigger. I do think that that is doable. I don't think that's impossible at all. I would say especially in Europe. The Last of Us and the Sony brand is just so strong in Europe. So strong. So I wouldn't be shocked to see it there. But if we're talking like globally, I would be surprised if it was bigger than Animal Crossing just because the gap it would have to make up from Japan and other markets, it would have to be huge. So I just think that's too steep of a hill to climb. But it's going to launch massive either way. Tripix, do you think we will see any games at this PSN event? Oh, yeah. No, it's going to be games focused. I see you here and Rick talking. Yeah. There's going to be a lot of games. It's going to be nothing but games mostly. It's going to be primarily games. Ryan saying he's effing starving for PS5. Me too. I think we all are. I think even Xbox fans are starving for PS5. And I think flip side, I think PS5 fans are still actually really excited to see what Microsoft announces. There's something really exciting about next gen. Maybe, when you're in year like 3 or 4 of a console generation, if you're like a PlayStation guy, you might be less interested in what Xbox has to show. You might be really in on PlayStation. But right when you're at the start of a new generation, you just really want to see what's coming. What are the big guns? What is Microsoft going to bring to the table? What's Sony going to bring to the table? Yeah, I'm starved. I can't wait. Give me all of the next gen news I can see. Lafiro 93, how big is the market in Brazil? Big and very much growing. I can attest to this myself. I have so many followers on Twitter from Brazil. I I did there's a way you can basically check and see like where people follow you from, right? What countries. And I can tell you Brazil's in my top 5. It's in my top 5 most followers on my Twitter. And I can also tell you, like, in terms of a market, it's a very big market. Gamers in Brazil are very enthusiastic. There's tons of them. It's a very much growing market, Lafiro. It's very big. Brazil. So for The Last of Us Part 2 to be breaking records in Brazil for the most pre-ordered game, that's good. Brazil is not a small market, and it's one that just continues to grow. I think Brazil, it's basically the largest economy in South America. I'm pretty sure. Pretty sure Brazil has the biggest economy in South America. That's big. It's a very, very big market, and I love the passion from the gamers in Brazil. I love it. All right. Ooh, here's an interesting one. Jet Green. Hi, Benji. How do you think Sony will open and close the PS5 event? So one thing that we know is that there's a rumor floating around that it's going to close with Demon-Souls and Bloodborne news. I'd be surprised if that's true. Closing the show with a remake seems a weird choice to me. Maybe that rumor is true. Like I told you earlier, I have like no inside info on this, so maybe it's accurate. But that would feel weird to me. I would think you'd want to open with like close with like a big brand new IP maybe, or like a really big sequel. I mean, could you imagine if they closed it with a tease for the next God of War? I mean, the place would, go crazy. Everyone would go crazy. So Demon-Souls, I could see opening it. Actually, I could totally see that being the opener for the show, because the rumor is, from what Blue Point's hiring was, they said they wanted like state-of-the-art next-gen visuals. So I think that game's going to look really amazing, but I'd be shocked if they close on that. I think they'll close on either a brand new IP or one of those big sequels I talked about, Horizon Zero Dawn 2 or, Spider-Man 2 or God of War. I think they're going to end with one of those and open maybe with Demon-Souls. I could see that. Tripic saying they're hoping that they see Spider-Man 2. It's possible, I would say. It's not a sure bet at all, but it's possible. It's been 2 years since Spider-Man. They could do a tease. They very well could. That or God of War. It's been like 2 years, ish. They could totally tease one of those. And Jaffe Taffy saying the same thing with God of War. Could be revealed on Thursday with gameplay. Very well could. I would say either one of those, there's a shot. Franco Tech. Hi, Benji. Hyped for the show. Hope that date was announced since the first announcement in June, so you had time to take the day off and stream the show. Yes, I am off. I will be streaming it. We are good to go. Yes, my live reaction will be here. So if anyone doesn't want to watch the show live with me, totally understandable. In the past, I didn't do that. I always go back and watch the Easy Allies reactions. I love Easy Allies. I'm a huge, huge fan of them. But I wouldn't watch conferences live with them. I would go back and watch afterwards. So I completely understand if no one wants, if people don't watch it live with me. I would just say, hey, show up to that pre and post show. That'll be fun. We'll be doing a build up to it, and then we'll recap what we saw at the end. All right. Let me see. Sorry, I'm scrolling to try to get some more questions. A whole bunch of people saying hi, hello, hello. I'm reading them all. When do May and 67, I answered this. I do think we're going to see the form factor here. In terms of do I think Lockhart is still coming? Yes, but not in June anymore. I think that Jeff Grubb is probably right, and that's in August. Ryan saying a remake of an RPG that probably will ship 1 million in a month is honestly very great for the Xenoblade series. Yes, Xenoblade is a franchise that's really growing, When you look, it started like very niche. When you look at the original Wii release of Xenoblade, right? Wasn't this like huge game by any means, especially in the West. It was fairly niche. It had a cult following, but it kind of was like a slow build. It didn't even release in the West originally, right? People were like petitioning to have it brought over. But when you look at it now, when you look at Xenoblade 2 and the goodwill from that, and now how good the definitive edition has launched, yeah, Xenoblade's on the rise, and Xenoblade 3, which is definitely coming, I expect that to be a very big success as well. That's a very good franchise for Nintendo. Glover Parker, hey Benji, great to see you. Good to see you. With Ring Fit Adventure restocking and Nintendo marketing the game more, do you see this being one of the biggest sellers this year? Oh man, it could be, Glover. If stock keeps up with demand, Ring Fit is basically selling through whatever shipment hits. Kind of like I was talking about you're seeing with hardware. Whenever you see, in Japan, like last week, it was up by like over 200% because it got restocks. In the UK this past week, I think it was up over 600%. So Glover, the limit on Ring Fit is simply how many they can make. So yeah, Ring Fit is going to have incredible legs. It's not going to slow down anytime soon. Whether it'll be one of the biggest sellers this year, I think that's tough because whenever you look at some of the big guns that are coming this year, I mean, we got Halo Infinite coming. We've got Cyberpunk 2077. We got Assassin's Creed Valhalla. I mean, we have some juggernauts, and we already had Animal Crossing. But what I will say, Glover, is Ring Fit absolutely is going to sell phenomenal this year, and it really just comes down to stock. So it will be definitely an amazing seller, even if it doesn't hit, let's say, the top 5 to 10 best-selling games of the year. That's by no means a bad thing because there are some huge games coming this year. Yeah, it's funny that it's E3 week from Split End, and the one company who dropped from E3 is the only one presenting. Yep, I know, that is hilarious. E3 was supposed to be this week. This week right now was supposed to be E3, and Sony originally announced they weren't at E3. Now they're the only ones in that time slot. So it's very, very ironic. Van City saying they're not expecting to see the console. Van City put it this way: if Sony don't show the console, you will see the console within 4 weeks. So it's up to that. Either Sony's going to show it or someone's just going to leak it that's in the factory making it. It's happened with previous consoles, many of them. The PlayStation 4 Pro, it was actually funny. The way the original Pro leaked was a drawing. Someone drew it. Van City, you're going to know exactly what the PlayStation 5 looks like within 4 weeks. So it's either going to be Sony who does it or someone's just going to leak it because it's going to be being made. It's going to be put in boxes, and boxes are going to be getting shipped to warehouses. Silence PP7. What games do you think make the most sense for a next-gen remake? I'm hoping Sony remakes Killzone 1 for the 20-year anniversary. Ooh, that would be sweet. Assuming a new one isn't in development. Silence PP7, I definitely want another Killzone. I do not want that franchise to die. I know that they're all in on Horizon right now, which makes sense. Horizon Zero Dawn is the best-selling game Guerrilla's ever made, and I think it's also the most well-received, even over any Killzone game. So totally makes sense why Horizon's the focus, but I really hope Killzone's not dead. Killzone as a franchise has had its ups and downs, but I really like the setting. I just think it's like a cool universe they created. So yeah, Killzone 1 remake would be amazing. What other remakes? I'd love a Jak and Daxter remake. I know that's kind of like a platformer and not like a super exciting game to some, but Jak and Daxter would be sweet. I would love to see something like that, or even a Sly Cooper. I think those would be fun. But yeah, Killzone would be up there for me. Killzone would be amazing. How long have we been going? We got about 10 to 15 minutes left, so we still got plenty of questions we can hit. Costas here. Do you think they're only going to reveal only launch games, or do you think we're going to see games like God of War 2? I touched on that, but I think it's going to be a mix. But let's say if we did a percentage, 70% games that are within launch window, which usually refers to about 6 months. Usually your launch window, they leave that window pretty big. So about 6 months. I think probably 70% of the show is going to be that launch window with, maybe, another 20 or 30% to further out announcements. They'll make some further out announcements, but it's mostly going to be about, I think, what you can get in those first 6 months. Interesting. Multiplat gamer guy. What do you think Xbox has to do to regain the hearts and minds of gamers with their IP lineup? This is an interesting question because Microsoft's in a bit of a it's kind of weird. Some of their games are a lot more successful than people realize. I know that Xbox gets, it definitely doesn't get the same sort of love that you see for PlayStation and Nintendo online. I think there's just no debate on that, right? And even when you look at sales, right, the sales are not as strong, which makes sense why you would see more love for PlayStation and Nintendo, because there's just simply more people playing on those platforms than there are on Xbox. That said, like we saw with Sea of Thieves, Sea of Thieves isn't a game you see a ton of love for online, but the game performs excellent. It's always in the top 5 to 10 on Game Pass. It does pretty strong metrics on Twitch. It's not like one of the top games, but it's got consistent viewership on Twitch. And we just saw on Steam, it hit the second highest concurrent users ever for a Microsoft published game, only behind Halo. So, Microsoft has some games that do pretty well for them that people just don't realize. Sea of Thieves definitely is one of them. We're seeing that with Minecraft Dungeons. Of course, the Minecraft IP is gigantic, but Minecraft Dungeons is performing very well for them. Forza Horizon 4 is performing utterly. When you all see the next updated number for Forza Horizon 4, if they ever give that out, just wait. That's all I'm going to say about that. I can't go more into that, but wow at Forza Horizon 4. If you ever get an update on that, it's going to blow your mind. But so they have some games that do excellent. But I do think it's fair to say that, there are a lot of things that Microsoft could and should be doing better, right? For one, their release slate typically has been very spaced out this gen, right? You've seen games from Microsoft with very big gaps in terms of first-party exclusive published games. You've seen some that just haven't hit the quality people want, like Crackdown, for example. So here's what I'd say. What can they do to really regain people? Just better quality, right? You need to see higher quality, which they're getting, right? I feel like they are improving. Forza Horizon 4, very, very, very good. Ori and the Will of the Wisps, very, very, very good. I loved Gears 5. I know some people don't. Personally, really liked it. So I think they are improving, but they need to keep going, right? Halo Infinite has to be amazing. It cannot be anything less. If Halo Infinite comes out and it's mediocre, it literally cannot be. I cannot imagine the pressure 343 is under, because that game has to deliver. There is no choice. Halo Infinite has to be good. For multiple reasons. It is like Microsoft's typically biggest IP ever, which isn't a bit of a weird state after Halo 5. And also, it's a launch game for their next-gen system. Like for Halo's health, for Xbox's health, Infinite needs to be outstanding. So quality, just keep pushing that quality up. It needs to keep going up. And then just more games. They just need more. They can't have especially for AAA games, right? It can't be one of those things where it's which has been a problem for them, where you see a AAA game and, maybe one or two, big AAA first party games a year. There needs to be more, and I know Sony has also had some years where they don't, but they've also had some years where they've had multiple really, really big games. So I want to see Microsoft putting out steadily 2 to 3 high quality AAA games a year. They can do more of the small stuff in between, but I want to see 2 to 3 excellent AAA games a year from them. I think that would go a long way. They can't be doing one, right? You can't just have just Gears 5 and then nothing else in a year. You have to have a couple big hitters. All right. Hello, Glenn. Hello. Shadow Steve saying, I hope we get a new Ratchet and Clank. It's definitely coming. Whether that's at this show or not, definitely coming, definitely in development. The last one did really well for Insomniac, really well for Sony. So it's definitely in the works. Whether that's here or not, there's a new Ratchet coming. No doubt about it. LaFiero93, the previews for The Last of Us 2 have been incredibly good. Yeah, insane. I've seen some places just raving about it. Reviewers aren't supposed to talk about the game as a whole, but a bunch of Brazilians are breaking NDA. I heard that. I haven't read it, but I've heard. And saying that the game is completely amazing. Yeah, and I think it was Greg Miller from Kind of Funny who said during his preview, he said he doesn't see how anything else can be Game of the Year. I believe. If I'm misquoting him, I apologize, but I thought I remembered him saying something like that. He can't see how anything else can beat it for Game of the Year. I think he said at least from the segment he could talk about. He wasn't taking the whole package, but the segment he could discuss. Yeah, I mean, the previews are through the roof. I mean, I think a 90-plus meta is locked, and I think we very well could be in 95-plus meta range. So, wow. Yeah, I mean, everyone who has played it, I haven't seen one person hinting that it's mediocre or bad. I haven't seen a single person. So, yeah, I think reviews are going to be huge. 90-plus, I think, is locked. I would literally bet money on it. And I think 95-plus is very likely. I would not be surprised at all. And then Lufio saying, I'm sure there's going to be a huge spike in pre-orders after the reviews come out. Yeah, I agree. Oh, yeah. That's one thing that happened with God of War. You know, this was back whenever I didn't talk about things like this on Twitter, and I talked about them in forums. And I was around during the God of War days back then talking about sales. And the spike God of War got when those reviews came out, crazy. I mean, it literally took off like a rocket ship, just straight up. When you see a rocket launch, it doesn't go like this. That bad boy goes zoom. And that's exactly what happened with God of War when the reviews came out. The Last of Us, I could see the exact same thing happening. Glenn Phillips saying, I think if Sony pushes marketing for The Last of Us 2, it could beat Spider-Man. Glenn, yeah, I think there's a really strong chance. Really strong. In fact, I'm leaning towards it is. I think it's going to beat Spidey. You know, I was a bit on the fence beforehand. You know, I just didn't know. I thought it definitely could, but Spider-Man was such a juggernaut. 3.3 million in 3 days is nothing to laugh at. But I think it's going to do it. You know, from all the metrics now I'm seeing, you know, when you're seeing markets like Europe outpace Spider-Man, when you're seeing Brazil blow past God of War, which God of War was the previous record holder there. Glenn, I'm going to go all in. I am going to predict that The Last of Us Part 2 beats Spider-Man. I do think so. Pablo 23X. I want a new Silent Hill made by I cannot pronounce this. Kichiro Toyama. I'm so sorry I butchered that, I'm sure. The father of Silent Hill. And his Team Siren and Team Gravity. I would love it. Yeah, Pablo, count me in. Count me in on anything horror. I love horror. Love it. Anyone who follows me knows I'm a horror game fan. Big, big fan. Couch, what do you think about the rumored Bloodborne remaster for PS5? 4K 60 FPS. Yeah, they should. I mean, they absolutely should. Do I think it's happening? Ooh, now that's a tougher question. You know, I'm going to say yes, but this is me just guessing because I think Sony's going to do that for a couple games. I think you're going to see Horizon Zero Dawn, the original, get a PS5 patch. I think you're going to see God of War, the original, get a PS5 patch. Spider-Man get a PS5 patch. I don't see why you wouldn't, right? Those are games that are giant. Millions of people play them. You're going to want people excited for the sequels. So what better way to get people really excited for the next Horizon, the next God of War, the next Spidey, than giving them an amazing PS5 patch so people can replay those on their PlayStation 5 and get really amped up for the sequel. So I could totally see Bloodborne being in that mix. And I'd also say, I said this on Twitter, if there is no Bloodborne sequel, it will be one of the strangest moves in the history of the video game industry. It really will. It will be one of the most bizarre choices I will have ever seen. We're talking Bloodborne as of September was the 5th best-selling PlayStation 4 exclusive lifetime in the US. We're talking about a game with universal acclaim, like darn near universal. If they didn't make a sequel to Bloodborne, what an odd decision. I would love to talk to the people behind that decision making at From Software and Sony and know how that would not come to be. Because, man, we're talking strange. It'd be weird. Oh, man, what a hard question here. From Acreact. I hope I pronounced that correctly. When do you think we'll see Elden Ring and Tales of Arise soon? Who knows? Those are two games that have literally just disappeared off of planet Earth. They're just gone. I want to see them very soon. I think Tales of Arise you probably will see soon. I'm scared about Elden Ring. I don't know. That game has just like disappeared off the face of the planet. It obviously still exists, but it's just gone into the ether. We never saw basically anything on it, but a very, very small teaser with zero in-game footage. It was more just like a tease for the atmosphere and setting. I'm a bit worried that something's gone wrong with Elden Ring. I hope I'm wrong. I hope it shows up in the next month. But I'm a bit worried about that one. I think something weird's going on with that game. Tales of Arise, I think you will see soon, though. But I hope we see them both still really soon. Oh, here's an interesting one. Yeah, we'll just do a couple more questions since we're almost at an hour. But thanks everyone who's been in the stream. Thanks everyone who's been in the chat. I love doing the live chat. We're going to just do a couple more. Biothin, do you think VR will be bigger next gen? So VR is growing, and really the one growing it right now is Oculus. Wow, the Quest is on fire. Oculus Quest is just doing absolutely amazing, which is straight from Oculus themselves. They've talked about this. Facebook has talked about this. Oculus Quest is ahead of their expectations. They've openly said that. It's so hard to buy an Oculus Quest. They're always out of stock. They mentioned how well games are selling on the Oculus Store. They've talked about multiple games selling over 1 million units, some games selling over 2 million units, which for VR is very good, right? Maybe 2 million seems kind of meh for a big giant AAA game, but for a VR game, 2 million is good. And there's, games that are hitting these kinds of numbers now on the Oculus Store. So yes, Biothin VR is definitely growing. I'm a bit worried though about how VR is going to be for Sony. I feel like Sony, I hate to say this, I feel like they kind of read the market wrong on VR. I'm a bit slightly disappointed in their support of it. They were first on the block in a big way on console. And I just think Sony thought VR was going to be bigger out of the gate than it was. And then you saw them really pull back. In fact, they closed multiple VR studios. They just completely shuttered them, completely closed them. You've seen their support slow down. Still a lot of third-party games, but not as much coming from Sony themselves. I hope they realize, I hope they're looking at Oculus, and I hope they're looking and saying VR is not dead. In fact, VR is growing. We're still a very long way from VR being this giant mainstream product, right? We're not there. It will be quite a while before we get there, but it's worth investing in. It is a market that continues to grow. And I'll say if Sony don't continue to support it, they're going to lose the market completely to Facebook, because Oculus is moving in a good direction. So Biothin, one way or another, yes, VR will be bigger in the next coming years. The question is if Sony's going to be on board or not. I hope they are, but I don't know. But I hope so. I really hope so. Critical Care, do you think we're going to see Resident Evil 8? Yes, I do. I think Resident Evil 8 will be there. Total guess, but there's so much that has leaked about Resident Evil 8. Like, it's clearly very close to being shown. And we know pretty much from Capcom's financials, it's going to be out by next March. So, yeah, I think so. And typically, Sony has marketing rights for Resident Evil. So, I'm going to say yes. Don't know that for sure, but I'm going to say yeah. A lot of people saying greetings from Brazil. Hello, hello, Brazil. Hello, hello. Y'all are awesome. All right, I think we might be mostly done. I think we got time for one more. Let's get one more question out of here. Here we go. We'll close it out with Mitch here. Mitch has got a question here, and he added me. So, Mitch, you get the last one. Mitch Triantafallis, do you think we will see a Metroid release this year? I'm hoping we'll at least see a trailer for Mercury Stream developed 2D Metroid. I don't think we're going to get a Metroid this year, but I think you're going to see a Metroid this year. Whether that's a 2D one or whether that is them finally showing Metroid Prime 4, like the actual footage of the game instead of just the logo, I do think you're going to at least see Metroid this year. I don't think we're going to go another full year with no Metroid at all. I feel like they also kind of teased that in the Origami the Paper Mario Origami King thing where they had the whole, Samus helmet and stuff. Obviously, that's a bit of an Easter egg, but I also think it might be like a bit of a wink to fans to say, hey, I think you will see it, by the end of the year. Maybe it's at the Game Awards. Nintendo has liked to show things at the Game Awards. So maybe it's not until then. Maybe it's like a late direct in the year. But I think you're finally, at least, I think Metroid fans will see something this year. All right, everyone. Thanks for an awesome chat. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Sorry to my friends in Europe. I know it's super late. But thanks for coming in. Anyone that's never been here before and doesn't subscribe to the channel, we do these chats twice a week. Thanks, everyone. So subscribe to the channel. Hit that like button if you like doing the chats. And I will see everyone who can make it on Thursday. If not, totally understandable. But otherwise, Thursday is PlayStation 5 Day. Pre-show about 30 minutes before the stream starts. Then live reaction, and then post-show right after it wraps up. Thanks again, everyone. Stay safe. Have some fun, go play some games, and I will see you either on Twitter or in the next video. Thanks again, everyone. See you next time.